right. Well, first of all, welcome everybody. Welcome to Crushing It, real life stories of top producers. I have something special for all of you today. I have, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for this because this is going to blow your mind. I have with me Trish Pallazola from Florida, God's country, who generated in the month of April, right? April. 51 times that of the average rep when it comes to new customer production. Actually, more than that, Trish. It's 5,100 or 5,125%. So 51.25 times that of the average rep. She generated 41 new customer orders. Now, for the sake of everybody watching this right now, let me explain what a new customer order is, because some of you are saying like, gosh, I had more than 41 orders. I'm not talking about your total book of business. I'm talking about what you obtain over the top of your total book of business from new customers that you converted. Now, ladies and gentlemen, write down the number 41, circle it. That's your target, because today Trish Pallazola is with us, and she's going to talk a little bit about Trish, but she's going to also share with the group how she generates 40 plus new customer orders in any given month. Trish, welcome to Crushing It.
Thank you.
So let's talk about Trish. Let's tell the world who Trish Pallazola is.
Okay. Well, I learned escrow actually in California. I was a new mother, just starting off, learned escrow in a California, Chicago title office, and moved to Atlanta, moved down to Florida, and worked as an escrow officer for 2 years. At that point, my employer asked me to move into sales. And I thought, okay, I didn't know sales, but I knew escrow. I knew how to talk to people. I grew up in hospitality. So I started doing sales, and I couldn't imagine what I'd do in an 8-hour day. I thought, how am I going to fill this up? And I winged it. I talked to people. I met people. I thought I was fairly personable and people liked me. I should get orders. And then the harsh realities of sales hit me. It doesn't work that way.
So let me ask you a question. When you say you winged it, I think that's a great topic to start with, because you've been working with us now for what, a couple of years, I think, something like that, and your coach, and maybe not quite a couple of years, but close. And there's many people out there that don't have a coach. They're not on a program. What percentage of the reps that you think are in the business that wouldn't work with an organization like ours that are winging a lot of their sales calls every day?
Oh my goodness, I'd say 80%.
Okay, so they're visiting, they have great relationships, because everybody thinks like this is a relationship business, right? And I think we've talked about this before, but hey, for those of you watching right now, you do not need a relationship to get a new customer order. You need a relationship to keep it a customer. The most common time anybody picks up a new customer opportunity in the very beginning is when they're mad at somebody else, right? That is 88% of the time. It's an experience that creates movement inside the title business. Only 12% of the time is a sale made outside of an experience, which means if the most common way somebody picks up a new customer is because they're mad at somebody else, you did not need a relationship with them. You needed a connection. You need to be in the right place at the right time, right? You need to be available, but relationship was not required. And I know that's super challenging to those of you that are winging it out there right now, but relationship is a critical element of retention, not a critical element of acquisition. So, and you're in Florida. How long have you been in Florida?
Those 17 years.
And are you loving the title business? Yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, I do love it. I really loved the escrow side of it. And then I really did not like the sales side of it, quite honestly, until I got in this program, because I was fearful every day. And so that was the reason for my hesitation, because it was every day thinking, how am I going to pull this off? Even in all that time, even though I was working hard, I really was working hard. I just wasn't working right. In the last year and a half or so, I have loved it, because I feel pretty sure of myself and what we can do.
Preparation creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates results. Results create fun. Right? I mean, results are fun. Winning is fun. I know we talked a little bit about that before we started rolling the recording on this. How winning is fun. Fun is a great goal. Let me ask you this question though, because I remember, and I want to put you on the spot a little bit here, but I remember when we first met and you first came into this program, and you had a reluctance. In fact, you had a reluctance that I think a lot of people have when they first start working with an organization or with a coach in the beginning as a salesperson. And then though, something happened. You are not reluctant. You are a go-getter. You are a top achiever. You are setting records, and you said it yourself, you're loving this now. And 15 years on the sales side, right? And 13 and a half of those, you were not loving it. And for the
True.
last year and a half, you've been loving it. But talk a little bit about that reluctance in the beginning, if you will, because I think that would speak to a lot of people who know that they could benefit from receiving some kind of help, some kind of support, some kind of coaching, some kind of training, but maybe they have a reluctance to go down that path, because I think it's super common. And share a little bit about that reluctance, and then share a little bit about what changed for you. Like, what was the moment that reluctance just vanished?
It was fairly soon into the program, but I will say initially, I would say quite reluctant, because I felt a little put upon, thinking, my goodness, I've been doing this for years. I work hard every day. People like me. Why do you feel that I need this, being somewhat seasoned and knowing escrow inside and out, that I need a coach? And when I got probably the very first session where everything that Coach Kristen was saying, everything you were saying made sense to me. And I thought, this is not the way I've been doing things. I was flailing. I was being nice. I was getting out there. I was making connections with people, but I didn't have any kind of strategic plan. And I thought, this plan can benefit me. I've got to get over my little hurt feelings and embrace it and do what I can do. And if I don't do it, then I'll have my answer. I'll know where to go from there. And I think I have my answer. It's worked for me. It's worked for me in that I've improved my numbers dramatically, and I feel validated in what I do. Even if there are months where things stay steady, but our new customer growth is there, I feel like I did it, and I can prove I did it, and that feels good.
So I think a really important point to make for everybody watching today is that you were not failing before. You did say flailing, which is way different than failing. Your numbers were good. You had good results. So it wasn't like, hey, your numbers are low, you need this help. And that part, I think that would be part of why somebody would feel that inhibition in the beginning too. It's like, I already see myself as successful within this business. But yet I think it's important for everybody to know that you did not come into this coaching plan as a rep that was struggling or failing. You came into this coaching plan with somebody that was already making great strides in what you were doing. You were successful previous to us. I know we helped you align some things, and we still do, and we're excited about the future and continuing to work together. But I think that's an important thing to think about, because you did not, and I remember in the beginning too. I remember that reluctance in one of our first meetings, and I asked you why should somebody do business with you? Do you remember what you said to me? People what?
People love me.
People love me.
That was in the beginning. That was in the very beginning of my career. I thought that was enough. And quite honestly, when I say I was doing well, I was doing well as an employee of my company, as a representative of my company. I would say that in hindsight, I wasn't doing well as a salesperson. I was a great goodwill ambassador for my company, and I did anything for anyone. Did I focus on sales and new sales? Not like I should have, not like I do now.
So elaborate a little bit on that transition, that transformation, if you will, from goodwill ambassador, because I think you'd speak to a lot of people that are watching this right now that, they're part of a lot of things. They represent the company well. It's like that rep that says, gosh, everybody knows me in my territory. And I ask them that question that they don't really like. Like, I ask them, what do they know you as? They look at me weird, and I'm like, do they know you as a representative of the company, a goodwill ambassador, somebody that's always there for them, supporting them in their needs? Or do they know you as a professional salesperson who works for your title company, whose job is to get their business? And in the beginning, it sounds like, yeah, answer A sounds good. That's a good answer. And then they hear answer B and they're like, I think I'm on the wrong path here, right? Do they know you as that goodwill ambassador that does everything for them and is always there? They know you as a professional salesperson whose job is to get their business. That's who do they know you as? So what was that transformation like for you?
Honestly, initially it was a little hard because I thought I'm going to go from being a go-to person. I never did the delivery of treats and things like that. I wasn't so much into that. I wanted to just be there for people, just be there and not actually ask for the order, ask for the business. Expect that I can let them know that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that permission, if you will. So I've gotten off track and I don't think I'm answering your question, but
No, you are. You totally are.
okay, good, because that was really naturally how it happened with me. All of a sudden the light bulb went on and I thought my job, what I'm getting paid to do is bring in new business. And I am actually doing these people a favor if I go to them and say, here's why I'm here. Here's what I'd like to talk to you about. Here's what can you tell me to help me help you, and that kind of thing. I'm saving them time rather than doing what I'm doing now and rattling on and wasting their time. I'm here. I know we can be a resource for you. I'd like to do business with you. And I did a lot of that. I'd love to work with you someday, as opposed to what are the chances of us working together on one of your next transactions?
So, it's really interesting you say that, because I was having lunch with a rep years ago, and I was talking about asking for the order, which we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. But I said, she goes, I always ask for the order. And I go, really? How do you do that? And she goes, well, when I, like the other day, I was talking to a prospect and I asked for the order in the end. And I said, okay, what do you say? And she said, well, when it was over, I said, I'd love to work together with you sometime. And I said, I didn't see a question mark at the end of that. Right. So there's no question. You're not asking for something. And there's a lot of people in this business that have convinced themselves, I think out of convenience, that saying something like that is actually asking for the order. But your revelation was that's not.
No.
All you're doing is stating a fact, right? I'd love to work together with you on one of your future transactions or one of your next transactions. I'd love to do this. You're just stating a fact. But when you get to the point that you're like, what's the likelihood we could work together on one of your next 3 transactions you have the ability to control? All of a sudden they're like, I have to come up with an answer on this. Or would you be opposed to working with me on one of your next 3 transactions that you have the ability to control? You're actually asking for something, right? And that's the transition. That's the transformation of a salesperson. So let's talk a little bit about sales, the function of sales in general. Okay. And how much time people put into certain things. And one of the questions I have, which I want to ask, is how many hours a week do you spend at your desk on your computer prospecting, focusing on hunting, focusing on the outreach of your business in a typical week? You're gonna have some weeks that are higher than others, but on average, how many hours would you say that is?
30 to 34 now. Again, I hesitate because it didn't used to be that way. I used to spend a lot of time out and around and being places and in front of people, maybe not always the right people, but now literally 30 to 34 hours a week. If I don't get what I feel I need to get accomplished in the week, I'll work a half day Saturday.
Okay.
But whatever it takes to get that chunk of time, because I feel like that's what I need to get the kind of numbers and the kind of results I want.
It's interesting you say that, because last month on Family Reunion, and I'm going to say this for the viewers, because unless you're on our coaching system, you don't know what Family Reunion is, but it's our national kind of an all hands session. And I put a challenge out there. And I don't know if you remember the challenge, but I put a challenge. I said, look, here's what the top salespeople that we work with do. And I said, they don't prospect 24 minutes a day like the average title salesperson does. The bare minimum is 2 hours a day, but the goal is 5.5 hours a day, or approximately 70% of an 8-hour day, right? And I asked the question, and I had multiple screens of people, and you were on the first screen number 1, so you were the one on the recording there. But I said, how many of you last month prospected 5.5 hours a day? And I saw you raise your hand. You were also the winner of Club 10 the same month at 41 new customer transactions. Do you think there's a possibility that those go together?
I know they are. I mean, it isn't any slight on anyone else, but I was the one who was spending 24 minutes a day.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm the one spending 5.5 hours. I know it made a difference.
But
And
here's something else too, Trish, is most people spend 24 minutes a day because they really don't have a plan, a process, or know what to do. So it's kind of accidental prospecting. It's impossible to be effective 5.5 hours a day in prospecting unless you have a plan to follow, unless you have a process, unless you know what you're going to do in those 5.5 hours. And I'm only going to assume, probably safely assume, that was a big turning point for you because it allowed you to prospect like that. You still have to do it, but having that process gives you a plan to follow. Could you imagine trying to prospect 5.5 hours a day without a process?
no, and that's why I say when I first started and thought I have 8 hours, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And honestly, I did it I work a lot from my phone, and I tried to do it effectively that way from the beginning. And this program, it was you, Raquel, or Kristen said to me, I think you need to open the computer first thing in the morning. Because I said, I'm doing this and that on my phone, and then I'll get to the Excel spreadsheet later, and I'll get to the tracking later. If I open it first thing in the morning and stay on it with, in and out, because I like to triage my tasks too, not just my customers, but at any rate, it made all the difference. It made all the difference.
So for the sake of the viewers, triaging is prioritizing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we teach it in prospects, we teach it in customers. You look at your tasks, you should triage everything. It's like going to the emergency room, right? The person with a cut finger does not get seen before the person with chest pains, right? Because that triage nurse prioritizes who gets the doctor's time. Your time in sales is very, very valuable, very valuable. And for those of you watching, the most valuable asset or resource that you have is your time. You cannot replace it. Time is not money. You lose $100, you can find a way to earn it back. You lose 100 minutes, they're gone forever, right? So in your ability to be productive, the proper use of time, not time management, but task management that goes into to manage the task that goes in, but to think we're going to manage time is a myth because time is a depleting resource. But we are going to triage the tasks that we put in that time. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit because there's lots and lots of people watching this right now that as soon as you say triaging, it means everything to us. We get it, but I wanted to explain that a little bit out there to them. But I also have another question for you. I remember when COVID first started, and reps all over the country were asking this one question: "Gosh, when do you think it's going to go back to normal?" Do you remember people wondering that?
Oh yeah.
But yet normal was inefficient, and we don't have to get into the math of what a sales conversation costs in person. That's random, like most people will do. Winging their calls and all that, but so COVID demanded efficiency out of everybody, and people that were already working with us had a lot of those things already in place. But so you're not that person that wants to get in the car. Maybe you were at one time, but a lot of people just want to get in the car, drive around, call on offices, see realtors, be part of BMIs and all this stuff. But you're 30 to 34, I think, hours a week. You're actually exceeding the 5.5, right? But you have a little bit of time that you actually leave your desk and go out in the field, but you're not starting that way. When you actually do leave your desk, when you're not prospecting and you go to see people, what are you leaving your desk for? Like, what are you doing when you're not prospecting?
Mainly, and I'm going to say this kind of tongue in cheek. I grit my teeth a little bit when I do have to go on an appointment. When I call and ask someone to meet or to talk to me, I almost hope they'll say no. I'd rather just lock it up over the phone. But on occasion, people say, yes, let's go to lunch. Let's go for coffee and those kind of things with top prospects. I'll do that with people that have a good triage score, seem like they're going to be a very good prospect for me in that they're responsive and that they have business to give, and go do an appointment like that. And it's not that I'm antisocial. I just know that it's much more efficient for me to use the phone. You're not driving, and not have all that time, and then the time of the meeting, and then the time coming back. So it's top prospects, sometimes inside the offices. I used to do that. That was my primary function. I helped in the office and I loved it. But I know that escrow staff can do their job if I'm out doing my job.
Right. Creating customers.
That has a little piece.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I had a couple questions that I kind of put together for you there. When you're not prospecting, what are you doing, and who do you go out and see, and when, like, all that prep time to go on the appointment and come back. and you're not antisocial. I've known you for a year and a half now. You're not antisocial. And let's face it, as you said yourself, people love me, right? So there's no way. Yeah.
That used to be my tagline. I'm not that arrogant anymore, but.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think our recording slowed down a little bit there. So let's move on. Let's talk about something that a lot of people struggle with. And it's asking for the order. I know I talked a little bit about it a minute ago, but a lot of people, they lie to themselves, Trish. They start off with a prospect and they have that first sales conversation with them. And the majority of people do not ask for the order in the first sales conversation. It's like, gosh, Darryl, it feels too early. It feels awkward. I don't want to be pushy. And then they have their second one and the second conversation, and they're like, kind of feels like the first conversation. Mm-hmm. So I still don't want to be pushy. And the third week, they begin to lie to themselves. And what they say is, it'll be easier later. But the farther we get away from the behaviors we're supposed to have, the more difficult it is to actually correct and start asking for the order, right? And at 3 weeks, 21 days, we formed a habit of not asking that prospect for business. Our studies show there's only 11% chance that a rep will go back after the third week if they haven't asked for business twice. I don't know if I ever shared this statistic with you, and asked for the order. So my question for you is, what percentage of the time do you ask for the order on your first engagement with a prospect?
And I don't know if you're going to like this answer, because it's about 98. And I think it should be 100. But there are on occasion, if I'm going to be brutally honest, which I usually am, it might really go south. Someone might be rude. Someone might say, I'm all set, click, gotta go. So I'd say 98% of the time on the first time. Because two, it helps me then determine how good a prospect they're going to be, one. And two, I've learned through a lot of trial and error, when they get to that friend zone or they get to the point where you kind of know them, then it gets more and more awkward to ask. It's easier to ask right out of the gate.
So I think you bring up a point that echoes what I said a second ago. The longer we go without acting the way we're supposed to act in our role, the harder it is to correct those behaviors, because we literally separate from that line. We get farther and farther away, and we're telling ourselves there'll be a day that'll be easy, but it literally gets worse and worse. I don't dislike your answer. I think 98% is a very good answer, because there are going to be those moments which that person you're talking to literally makes it impossible for you to ask anyway, right? Not everybody's going to even entertain that conversation. So 98%, basically what you're saying is, every time you have a real conversation with people that goes halfway reasonable, which means they didn't hang up on you, right?
Yes.
You're gonna ask for the order. Let me ask you this though: before you joined our program, what percentage of the time do you think you're asking for the order on the first call?
Oh, probably that 2% left over from the 98. Yeah, I felt presumptuous. How dare I ask at this point? And when I gave myself permission to actually be a salesperson whose job it is to get business and let them know that's my job, then it became much easier. But truly, I did a lot of I'd love to work with you, and not in question.
It's really interesting, isn't it? So how confident are you in your role right now?
Very. I feel really good about it, and I feel confident, and I'm not scared every day. Because I used to feel that way, like, oh dear, if the market goes or this happens, and not necessarily, but yeah, fearful. I was really unsure about how everything would play out day to day. Now I think if I do this, this, and this, I can very well expect this is going to happen.
Yeah, so you can predict your future.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Performing reps are never asked to leave. Markets come, markets go, markets go up, markets go down, right? Companies change staffing levels at times, but really productive salespeople are never asked to leave. And you are a really productive salesperson. It's a tremendous honor to have you on, crushing it with me during this episode. I'm so thankful that for a lot of things. Number one, that you could be here, but number two, that we met and that we've had the opportunity to interact, and that you have literally run with the tools that have been put before you, because you still have that choice. You can still have an incredible coach and incredible tools and choose not to run with it, right? And so I'm super grateful, super thankful that you've done that you've engaged. And I got to tell you, everybody here in our group, we're super proud of you. I've used the word super so many times in this, but we're so proud of you and what you've accomplished. And we know that this is only the beginning. And I just want to, I think I want to ask you this. If you could offer advice to title reps all across the country or title companies across the country, what would you tell them?
To willingly embrace this kind of help, because it is a strategy, it is a system, it works, and it makes sense. If you just think about it logically, it makes so much more sense to have a strategy and a plan than to go out and hope and hope and hope that things are going to work out for you. So I am grateful to you and this program, because it's helped my sales, but it's really helped my sense of self as well in the job I do. So
I think
thank you.
we would be remiss. Thank you for that, by the way. We would be remiss not to mention the fact that you work with an organization whose leadership believes in this, and they are equipping you and they are supplying resources and tools for you to continually grow, because you wouldn't have the opportunity to do that if they didn't do it. So hats off to your leadership for putting in a position and your team in a position to be able to win like this. And look, if there's ever an opportunity for us to get back on another one of these episodes, I hope to be able to do it. I know you're going to continue to produce at the level you are. So, you're going to be back on another Crushing It episode with a whole new realm of information at another level somewhere down the road. But for now, Trish, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for working so hard, for putting in the time, for putting in the effort, and for willingly accepting the victories that you have so graciously earned. So thank you so much for that. And for those of you watching, don't miss these episodes, because there'll be reps from all over the country who are crushing it. Real life stories of top producers in the very same space that you are in right now, selling title and settlement services to people in the marketplace more effectively. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.